The night air over Willow Creek carried a quiet chill, the kind that settled on a person's skin and made every feeling sharper. Ethan stood near the old wooden fence behind the house, hands buried in his jacket pockets, trying to convince himself that he hadn't come here for the same reason he always did. He told himself it was just a walk, just a habit, just a coincidence that he always stopped behind her house. But deep down, he knew better. He didn't expect her to come outside this late. He definitely didn't expect what he felt the moment the back door opened and warm light spilled across the yard. It was Claire. She stepped out slowly, holding her sweater closed with one hand, as if the night could read her thoughts. She glanced around, almost like she already knew he was there. And when her eyes finally found him through the dim yard, she froze, not out of fear, but out of something far softer, something she wasn't ready to admit. Ethan felt that strange, unexplainable pull again, a quiet rush inside his chest, like someone had reached in and gently turned his heart toward her. He shouldn't be here. She was 10 years younger, still figuring out her life, still carrying hopes he didn't want to disturb. He had spent years building walls around his feelings, convincing himself that someone like her deserved someone lighter, someone untouched by the weight he carried. But whenever she came outside like this, just to look for him, those walls trembled. "Ethan," she whispered, stepping closer. Her voice was soft, but it somehow filled the whole yard. He swallowed. "You should be inside. It's freezing." "That's not why you're here," she said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "And it's not why I came out." Ethan looked away, trying to gather himself. But every time she closed the distance between them, he felt the world narrow to just her, just the way she stood there with worry and curiosity mixed in her eyes. Claire stopped a few feet from him, close enough that he could see how her breath trembled in the cold. "You've been avoiding me," she said, her voice barely louder than the breeze. "I've been busy," he replied, knowing she could hear the lie. "You think I don't notice when you pull away?" She stepped even closer. "You used to come inside, at least for a minute. You used to talk to me." "That was before," he said quietly. "Before what?" He didn't answer. He couldn't, because if he did, the truth would slip out, that every time he looked at her, he felt something that scared him more than anything he'd faced in years. She took another step, now standing right in front of him. The soft light from the house traced the outline of her face, highlighting the sincerity in her eyes. "Ethan, did I do something? Did I make you uncomfortable?" "No," he said quickly. "You didn't do anything. Then why won't you look at me anymore?" He lifted his eyes, and the moment he did, something shifted inside him. The world went quiet. The distance he had tried so hard to keep vanished like it had never existed. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Claire whispered, "I came outside just to see you, because I knew you were here." His breath caught. She wasn't supposed to say that. She wasn't supposed to know. Ethan felt it again, that warmth, that fear, that impossible pull he couldn't explain. And standing there in the dim glow, with the quiet night wrapped around them, he realized something unsettling. He wasn't just drawn to her. He needed her far more than he was ready to admit. The silence between them stretched, but it wasn't empty. It carried everything Ethan had tried so hard to hide. Claire stood so close he could see the faint sparkle in her eyes from the porch light, could sense the quiet hope she was trying to keep from slipping out. She was young, yes, but not naive. She felt things deeply, and she was brave enough to ask for the truth, even when he wasn't ready to give it. Ethan took a small step back, trying to breathe, but Claire followed him like she wasn't willing to let him retreat again. "Why do you keep running from me?" she asked softly. "I'm not running," Ethan said, though the words tasted false. "You are." She folded her arms, not in anger, but in hurt. "You think I can't tell when someone cares about me, or when they're afraid of caring too much?" He looked down at the ground between them. "Claire, you don't know what you're talking about." "Yes," she murmured, "I do." For a moment, she said nothing else. She just watched him, quietly studying the tension in his shoulders, The way he kept his hands deep in his pockets, like he was afraid they might reach for her on their own. "You think you're protecting me," she said finally. "That's what this is, isn't it?" He didn't move, but the stillness was an answer. She stepped closer again, her voice warm but steady. "Ethan, you don't have to protect me from you." He lifted his head. The emotion in her face startled him. She wasn't just guessing. She understood him in a way that made it impossible to hide. "You're so much younger," he said quietly, struggling with the words. "You have a whole life ahead of you. You shouldn't be attached to someone like me." Claire smiled sadly. "You say that like you're some kind of danger." "I am," he whispered. "Not the kind you think. But I care about you more than I should. And that's exactly why I've been trying to stay away." Her expression softened. "Then you feel it too." Ethan froze. "Feel it too?" He tried to ignore it for months. The warm rush in his chest when she smiled, the way her voice could calm him after the worst days, the quiet comfort he found simply knowing she was around. But Claire's words stripped away every excuse he'd built. She reached out and gently touched his sleeve, barely brushing his arm, as if she wanted to see whether he'd pull away or finally let her in. He didn't move. Her hand lingered, warm against the cool night, and he felt that familiar spark that always left him unsteady. "Why didn't you just say something?" she whispered. "Because I'm afraid," he answered honestly. "Afraid of ruining your life or mine." Claire shook her head. "You're not ruining anything." Her voice broke slightly. "But you're hurting me by pretending you don't care." Ethan's heart dropped. He hadn't meant to hurt her. He'd only wanted to protect her from the complications of someone his age, someone with scars he didn't want to show. "Claire," he said quietly, "I don't want you getting attached to me just because I've been around." She stepped even closer, now only inches away. "I'm attached because I see who you are. I'm attached because you make me feel safe. I'm attached because I've never cared about anyone like this before." Her honesty hit him harder than any confession he'd prepared for. Before he could respond, the wind picked up, brushing her hair across her face. Ethan instinctively reached out, tucking the strand behind her ear. The moment he realized what he'd done, he pulled his hand back, but the damage was already done. Claire had seen the tenderness he tried so hard to hide. Her voice came out trembling. "Please don't walk away from me again." Ethan felt his resolve cracking, piece by fragile piece. He opened his mouth, trying to find the right words, when suddenly a set of headlights flashed at the end of the street. A car slowed to a stop in front of the house, and Claire's eyes widened. Ethan had seen that car before. The door of the car slammed shut, hard enough to echo through the quiet street. Claire stiffened. Ethan saw her hands tighten, saw the fear she tried to hide. The man walking toward them, Mason, moved with the kind of confidence that came from knowing he could get under someone's skin. Tall, sharp-eyed, wearing the same smirk Ethan had seen once before. "What's he doing here?" Claire whispered, her voice barely steady. Ethan didn't answer. He stepped slightly in front of her without thinking, his body responding long before his mind did. Claire didn't resist. She almost leaned into the protection he offered, her hand brushing his arm like she needed the closeness to stay calm. Mason stopped a few feet away, his eyes narrowing at Ethan before shifting to Claire. "You haven't been answering my calls," he said. "I thought we should talk." Claire didn't move from behind Ethan. "I don't want to talk to you." Mason's jaw tightened. "We were together for 3 years. You don't just disappear. You don't get to decide that anymore," she replied, her voice firmer this time. Ethan could hear the hurt buried in her words. He already knew there was history there, unsteady, painful history, but seeing her face pale the moment Mason appeared made something inside him flare hotter than he expected. Protective, fierce, and no matter how hard he tried to ignore it, deeply emotional. Mason pointed toward Ethan. "Who's he?" "Your new guy." Claire hesitated for half a second, and that was all it took for Mason's expression to darken. Ethan stepped forward. "She said she doesn't want to talk. You should go." Mason laughed under his breath, shaking his head. "You're kidding me. She leaves me for some older." He didn't finish because Claire cut him off. "I didn't leave you for anyone," she said, stepping out from behind Ethan. "I left because you stopped respecting me, because you made me feel small, because I didn't recognize myself anymore when I was with you." Her voice cracked, but she didn't look away. Mason blinked, thrown off by the sudden strength in her voice. "Claire, don't do this. You know we were good together." "No," she said softly. "We weren't." The wind settled. The whole yard seemed to fall quiet. Mason glanced between them, his jaw clenching, like he couldn't accept what he was seeing. Her standing firm, Ethan standing beside her, both of them united in a way he hadn't expected. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Mason let out a bitter exhale. "Fina, have it your way." He turned back toward his car, anger stiffening every step. The headlights flashed again as he drove off, disappearing around the corner until the street returned to silence. Claire's breath shook as soon as the car was gone. Ethan turned to her gently. "Are you all right?" She nodded, but her eyes told a different story. "I'm glad you were here," she whispered. "I don't know what I would have done if you weren't." "You handled him," Ethan said. "You were stronger than you think." She looked up at him then, really looked, and in that moment, the fear in her eyes faded, replaced by something deeper, something warm and certain. "Ethan," she said softly, "I meant what I said earlier. I care about you, and I'm tired of pretending I don't." He felt the words like a weight and a relief all at once. Slowly, he reached for her hand. She didn't hesitate for even a second before letting her fingers slip into his. "You're sure?" he asked quietly, his voice unsteady. "I'm sure," she whispered. "I've never been more sure." The night was calm again. The porch light glowed softly behind them. Claire stepped closer, her forehead brushing his chest, and Ethan felt that same indescribable emotion, the one he'd tried so hard to avoid, rise inside him, stronger now, impossible to deny. He lifted her chin gently, meeting her eyes. "Then I'm done running," he said. A slow smile touched her lips. "Good."